Hey, it's Katie Moran. Welcome to Artistic Spirit. Today I'm here with Karla Idunate, hybrid athlete, fitness coach, model, and she's empowering females to lift heavy. Welcome, Karla.
Hello, Katie. I'm so excited to be here.
So, one of the things I love so much about what you say is this idea of reframing this idea of what women are capable of. And the best way that I heard you say it, just that like really struck me was when you said that a woman might not go to the gym and pick up a heavy weight because she just wouldn't think that she can, or she wouldn't think that, I don't know, we'll get into like the thought pattern of it after, but she would, it's frequently you see women who hold groceries and a baby and close the trunk while they're doing it. And I think that is just so interesting about this idea that sometimes we as women don't think we're strong or strong enough to lift a weight, but we do all these things functionally that show how strong we are. So I'd love to hear just a little bit, what do you think stops women from picking up that weight when they really do have the strength to?
I think we females, we grew up somehow in the concept of like we're weak. Doesn't mean that, and I'm pretty sure some of your, people who listens to this, they will say like, well, I'm not weak. I'm not meaning on a weak on like a mental weakness or anything like that. When it comes to the fitness part, I am one of the few who is standing next to the big guy who is picking up a heavy weight because for me, the new way to get fit or look good or just kind of like empower my own self is by saying how much can I do 5 more pounds, can I keep adding up? And I guess when I was a kid, and I know there's a lot of us females that when we were kids we were told, let your brother do it. And again, I know our parents were trying to be nice because we're females, they should be taking care of us. That's how we always been perpetrated. But unfortunately, for some reason, our minds is just changes the dynamic of what you think it should be like gentle, nice, caring to like, oh, I'm too fragile now. Like we just are, it changes in our mind. So when somebody's trying to be like, hey, help your sister, with the grocery stores. Hey, you're the big brother, you're the uncle, can you please help out? Right? I know they don't trying to be mean to us, they're just trying to take care of us, because that's always been our thing. Females should be always being taking care of us, which is great. But at the same time, there's just a disconnection that just because somebody's trying to be nice and kind, we disconnect our minds or something switches where like, oh, I cannot lift 5 pounds. I cannot do this. That's too heavy. Age comes along. That's another thing that we hear a lot from the female side. You're too old, the age. Um, so little things like that, that when I have a friend come to the gym with me and she says, oh, you know a lot of working out. I know you've been a coach. Can you do a plan for me? I'm like, okay. And I show them the plan and they're like, oh, that's too heavy. And I'm like, how about you do it first? And if it's really heavy, of course we can change the weight and then we can write it down for next time. But they're like, oh, I didn't know I can do 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds. And that's why always the concept for me is always how I see moms who work, have the phone is ringing, they have the kid with the iPad on the side, a dog is pulling to the side, there's groceries to be, taking care of the car. And sometimes we don't want to do the 20 different back and forth. So there's a lot of us who will try to pick as much as we can and just get it all into one round to the house. And I'm like, if you can do that, if you actually dissect that picture and you say, okay, 5 pounds to the dog, 10 to 15 pounds sometimes to the kid, depending on if he's little and how much he weighs. And then the groceries, another 15 pounds. So you start adding the numbers and you're like, why would you say to yourself that you're not strong when this is what you do daily? This is not just a workout. This is a daily routine that you just do as a regular day for you every day.
Yeah, and I want to make a note here for the listeners because I know Carla's niche is women, but for me, I know I have a lot of men who are in my audience who might not feel comfortable going to the gym and picking up a weight. So when we talk about the mindset of it, please feel free to apply this to you. Specifically, if you don't feel it applies to you or you do feel like it applies to you and you have someone in your life, specifically a woman, please share this with them and remind them of how strong they are, because that's really what this whole episode is going to be about, is finding your inner strength and knowing that it was always there, and how we can develop that through working the body, which I love. Karla, you really talk about working the body as a form of empowerment and how it's connected to mindset. So how exactly do you see the journey when you work with people, the journey from where they start to where they get to a place where they're proud of themselves? Like, what does that typically look like?
You know what? I love coaching people, and I like what I call the underdogs, the ones that are really fragile, the ones that we're talking right now. Doesn't matter if it's a male or a female, you know. Even if it's a male, I had people males who they see me, and they're like, and I get it. Again, I get it because I would be the same thing. If I have a trainer who's unfortunately is a little bit heavy than me, and I'm looking at him like, okay, how is that person is gonna show me what to do? But don't do the perceptions of just because you are female or you are a little bit heavy than me or something like that. People had shut me completely on how powerful they are. That I'm like, oh, like don't go by the look, go by what they can do, and then just shut your mouth because there some people are amazing at that. Now, with that being said, I love the people who count heavy sweatshirts. Always when you don't feel comfortable in your own body, you come with a heavy sweatshirt, big baggy shirts, because you're not comfortable. So you go to the gym because you wanna do something better for yourself. So in the beginning, they start like that. They don't want to show anything, and it's fine. And as we progress, I'm not about doing measurements. I don't believe in measurements. I don't believe in weight because if you feel good when you put your clothes, you that's all it matters. A
Mhm.
number is not gonna tell you that, oh my God, I'm too heavy, no enough food, whatever it is. For me, it's like I have clients who come and they say, I want to be back to my 20s, when that had that specific size. Let's face it, we all get older, and that's not going to happen unless you are like 2 years, ahead. You can probably get back to that body size that you used to be. But there's people who comes to the gym, and that is 10, 15 years that they have this perspective of like, I remember when I was size 32, and now they're like in the size 40, or they're even the age in the late 40s. And I'm like, let's just not focus on a number. Focus and they just the clothes. And I love that because once I take that perspective and we start working, the clothes shows me how much confidence I'm gaining. So they start heavy baggy sweatshirts. And as they start coming more often, 3 months, 4 months, they now it's a t-shirt. Now it's no longer that sweatshirt. Now it's a t-shirt. And I'm like, okay. And then we getting into it, we get into it. Now it's a tank top and leggings. It's no longer those baggy clothes. Now it's you can see how they start feeling good, clothes starts feeling great. There is no concerns about food anymore. Like they start loosening up themselves. Like, oh, I ate this bad, but I did A, B, and C. Like there's now they see how they can reward themselves. So that's for me the best experience to start with a kind of person who they just personally they feel that they cannot do certain things. I had a person who was 90 years old and she looks like she was in the 70s. And she's like, listen, my goal is to do a push-up, but I don't know how to do this. And I said, I don't want to do girly push-ups. And the reason why want to do that is because I'm a teacher, I'm an aide, and I cannot even put those tiny little shares that you see on for the kindergartens. You know how you had to put it over the table so the custodians can clean up the chair. I cannot even do that. That's how bad I feel. I got her to do 10 straight push-ups from not even knees on the floor or anything. And that's how much you don't have to focus on an age. You don't have to focus on anything. Just the mind to change. I'm capable. I can do this. And you just gotta trust somebody. Once you trust the process, you will be so surprised how much or what more can you do.
I love that so much, and I love how you talk about it's really the feeling, because I think a lot of fitness coaches and maybe like fitness influencers, you see them really focus on like the way the body looks and the way it's shaped, and it's more kind of like showy. And I think I know I personally have struggled with eating disorders, and one time I stopped eating for a couple of months and lost like 30 pounds, and I didn't want anyone to know, so I was layering my clothes and I had such baggy clothes on and no one could really tell. And for me, like, I wish I had that mindset, that because I was so insecure about my weight and I felt like it really was a defining feature for me. And I wish I had someone who had the mindset to kind of like teach me that my value doesn't come from the way I look, and that even if the scale is something that is hard for me to look at. Like, it's not a definition of who I am, and it doesn't define me. And that, like, all of the things I've been through isn't something to like put on to me, and like to feel that I'm like stuck in this victim mindset. And I think a lot of people have this fear when they start something new, and it's like an ego deflation to start as a beginner, and it's really humbling. And I think when we look at things like eating disorders and like overcoming trauma that like kind of can lead to emotional or binge eating, it's so important to recognize that the narrative has to change, and it has to be about the way you feel. It has to be that you can feel comfortable in your skin, and that it's not so much the way you look defines you, which I think, especially with social media and like things like TikTok and Instagram, there's so many people who are really like put on a pedestal for the way they look. And it's just always like a constant reminder to not have the mindset where you think you're defined by that. And really what I love about what you're doing is that it's how you feel, and not only that, it's about being strong. And for me, I think always like being in like good shape was usually when I was at my weakest mentally, and I was the most fractured and fragile. And you really have shifted my paradigm on this idea that you can be strong and you can be in shape, and that having that mindset really puts the two in sync, and that it's really like possible to have both of them, and that you don't have to sacrifice your well-being to look a certain way.
Yes. And that's my goal, right? Because right now, listen, when I was a kid, we didn't have social media. I didn't grow up with social media until later on. And for me, was I guess my social media, or what I was looking for, it was Barbie. That was one of the things that across the border, Barbie this, and you had Barbie many different aspects of her life, right? So for me, I'm my background, I'm Mexican, so having dark hair, dark skin. So for me, it was already like, oh my God, like, like they used to say blondes are beautiful and smart, and of course the rest of it are not. So that was one of the things that I start like feeling bad about it. And it was just like, something happened to myself. I don't know if it was a teacher, my parents, whatever happened during that society. I just didn't give up, because I love the fact that I can push boundaries. And again, I love that. And because of that, I'm 49. This will be my year to turn 50. And I love the fact that people says, I love to eat, but I eat healthy, right? So I love the part where people who are either my age, a little younger, or a little older, they still say to me like, oh my God, you cannot do that. That's one thing. Like, why are you running? Why are you doing all these marathons? You shouldn't be doing that. You're too old. And then they also like the part where like the way I eat, people are like, oh, just wait. This year will be the year where like you're gonna completely like blown up, or your body's gonna change. It is you everything you eat in is just gonna go, your metabolism gonna change, but not for the better. They all keep saying for the worse. And it's just for me, every time I have those people, I embrace what they say, because I have shown them, I know I can be 50, I can be 70, and as long as I take care of my body, it doesn't matter what I eat, as long as I know there's the right food. The same thing goes for my training. I'm doing right now a challenge once a month. I'm doing like Spartan races, 20-mile hike. I'm doing
Mhm.
so many things that why? People ask me why. Because why not? We shouldn't, if you feel good about your body, you should just do something that can take you out of the regular thing at the gym and just see, can I do it? Can I do it? Doesn't matter time. It doesn't matter if I got a medal. It matters that you say, I did it and I finished it. And that's the end of it. Because at the end, it's just another way to kind of get that dopamine and empowering your own self. Because if you don't do it yourself to you, who else is going to do it? I love my husband, I love my family. But if I don't do that for myself, there is no way that I would have done what I am, or I am what I am right now without myself keep pushing the limits.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the power it takes for a woman to say, I'm going to do this for myself and I'm going to challenge myself, even if society doesn't tell me that it's necessary.
It's hard when, unfortunately, when you have that mentality of like, I don't know if I can do this. You get afraid. You like, oh, it sounds kind of scary, and I get it because that's out of your comfort zone. For me, I was not there, but there were some things that I had to be grateful with the people I had around me. I have other of my friends, because I started young doing certain things, that they were crazy enough to say, let's do it, and it just happens, right? And I think that's one of the things you need to find that other person. I'm not a runner, but if you find somebody who runs and is willing to say, listen, I'm interested in running, I'm doing my first 5K. Would you mind signing up with me? Give me a couple tips. And if you can do that, it's just a way to that person keeps pushing you. Be like, no, you cannot do this, but we're gonna do this other thing. We're gonna go backwards on your training, but we're gonna go forwards on this. So it's just a way that you definitely need a community. You need a person if you start with that. And then from there, you get so involved and so energetic that you start finding like, oh, what other people is doing this? Hey, can I be part of the community? And it really community tribes you. And more from the beginning. Once you feel, because there is parts that you can feel as an expert. And like you've been doing it for so long that you no longer need that other person. Becomes you that you want to empower for yourself. But in the beginning, you got to start somewhere. And I definitely embrace that. You go to the gym, find a person. Hey, I need to go to the gym. You want to come with me? Find that. Hire a trainer. That was another person that you can is counting on you, so you better show up. So there's little things that you can start in the beginning, and then from there, just like, all right, let's keep doing other things that eventually become something that you're like, there's no excuses. I can do it. I did this. I can do this other thing. I I did this and this. I can do 3 times that thing. Guys, unfortunately, there are guys who, I don't want to say they're bully, but the gym, you get these big guys. And there's some guys who are so big, but I gotta tell you, they're the most nicest, gentle people. If you need help with something, they will help you a lot. And then of course, like everybody else, you have the opposite. They don't want to deal with you, they don't want to help you out. And it's just the way it is that you just have to put the big pants and feel confident and just go for it. So it's hard, I get it. But if you have somebody next to you in the beginning, you feel like I can do this.
I love that. And I'd love to hear more about what are some of the common like self-limiting beliefs that come up for women that you see people kind of like getting trapped in the excuses or trapped in feeling pressure to do other things or feeling like they're not good enough to pick up a weight. What are some of those common threads that a lot of people have in their head?
You know what? When you go to the gym sometimes, you already past the stage where like, okay, I can do this. I can go to the gym. You get to the gym and you see the people, and from the front, the person who greets you in the front, it can be the nicest person, and then as you walk around, you start seeing, and I get it, you're just timid, you're scared, you're in an environment you never set foot before. So usually that people who goes there for the first time, the easiest way for them to kind of like just deviate from the weights is go to the treadmill, the bicycle, something that they can do, because that's we know we can do
Mhm.
that. So going to elliptical, the treadmill, that's where they go, and they will stay for 30 minutes. And even I know people who like, I really want to do that thing, exercise that that person is doing, but they won't get off because they're timid. They just don't feel confident that they can do that. We people, unfortunately, and now with social media, it does get a little bit hard when you try to do something and and you feel like people are watching you. Even though they're not watching you, you feel like they're watching you. So that's another way that it stops you. That you want to try it, but you don't want to try it. And as you see other people who are willing to go for it, and then you see how they look like lost, you're like, nope, I do not want to be that person. So all those little things trigger you to stay where you are and don't move forward. The other thing is that there is, again, there is more guys, even though we're trying to get that female more enthusiastic and get going and moving and be part of the gym, guys will always overpower us. You can have more guys on the bench, on the machines, on anything else than female. So if you walk in, you're like, you are afraid because you don't know if you're doing the exercise right. Unfortunately, it can be either way. There is guys who will come and say, you're not doing this correct. You should do A, B, and C, which is nice. But then you do it again another time, another day. Then it becomes like, okay, dude, like I got it the first time. I don't need you to keep coaching me. I didn't pay for that. Becomes a hassle. And more as a female, you don't know if they're trying to pick on you like as like a pickup line to get you something, and you're not interested. You just want to go and work out. So there's certain things that I know females get like, I can't do this. This is just too hard. um the intimidation, all those little things, it just doesn't get you motivated. And you can see the difference of like body how your body talks to people. I can go to the gym. I don't care what size the person is, meaning the guy. I can walk straight forward, chest out. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm gonna do. I don't need your help. But that's me. I've been doing that for a long time. And I also know the person who just walk in and trying their best to get fit, and it's like they get like a little bit conscious, intimidated. They go to the gym back and forth, they don't know what to do. So it is really hard if you don't have like some kind of writing down workout, if you don't know how to do the exercise. So there's little things that as a female, it just, you kind of sets you back a lot, not a little bit, a lot. So I don't know. It's hard. Really, is hard, and that's why my goal is to create videos where like start home. I can give you the first tips at home, get you comfortable to the point where like if I can teach you how to do push-ups, if I can teach you how to do pull-ups, even going to the park, starting there, do some running, some kind of aesthetics with a bands or anything like that. Then when you go to the gym, you're like, okay, now I don't feel lost. Now I know that if I do this weight, I can do this side to the arms, this to the chest, this to the, so at least now you feel a little bit comfortable.
What is the empowerment piece to this? So, what exactly does it take for someone to find that courage, even if they do feel lost? Do you think they have to take the baby steps to feel like they aren't lost, or do you feel more like even if they are lost to kind of like stick through it and go further and kind of like thrive even with the resistance and even with the fear? And I know this is what I love about your content is that you kind of like give people the tools so that they won't feel lost when they go there, And also like doing episodes like this and your mindset videos, those are things that really empower people to change their mindset. So if they do feel lost, they feel strong enough to figure it out.
So listen, everybody is different when it comes to the mindset, right? So that's something that I have to keep in mind, because
Mhm.
for me, if you tell me, listen, for you to be able to be in the army, for example, you need to be able to do all these 5 exercise on this time, and that's the end of it. You gotta just get this done. I'm the kind of person who will work out every day if he has to until it gets to the goal that they're asking me to do to get that. See, but that's me. There is people who I know, I literally have to go and say, okay, baby steps. What, like, as people who never gone to the gym and they wanna, this 2024, they were eager to start, how can I start losing weight? I never done any type of exercises. I barely walk. What do I do? And that's one of the things, a contest that I try to do, to like just put your sweatshirt, get up early. If you have a specific time, just get up. I don't care if you just walk around your house, you do laundry, but at least you get up at the time that you promise yourself. You put your sweatshirt and your sweatpants, and then let's do that for 5 days if you still don't feel like doing any exercise. And then from there, I will be like, okay, now that you are capable to do that, start doing exercises. And I will give you sort of a small task for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever time for you to feel like I did something for myself. And then from there, I will be like, okay, now that we got comfortable and you've been a month doing this, it is time for us to go to the gym. And then from there would be like, how I started was like, nobody taught me how to do exercises. And so one of the things that I was like, okay, so how do I do this? We didn't have YouTube at the time either. So I started buying magazines. There used to be, which I don't know if it still has, but there used to be Muscle Fitness magazine for men. There were not even, the females wasn't in there yet. So I used to just rip up the pages, kind of write it down, the workout, see the pictures before I go to the gym, and be like, okay, I gotta do it this way, this way, this way. And I was like, okay, I just got to focus on those 5 exercises and do what the guy is doing, and then I got it. And I did it. Right or wrong, I did it. Nowadays, when there's an exercise that I see that I don't know, I will be like, okay, let me YouTube the exercise. And I know the names are different, but it's the same thing that I have done before. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know that. So that would be the next thing I would do. I'm like, okay, I need something for my chest, my biceps, triceps, whatever you want. I would say Google it, and then just watch the video, and you say, okay, I have my little notebook, and then you do that. So you need to start baby steps. And some people can skip 1 to 3 steps to just go straight to 4. And some people may have to do like, I just feel like the weakest person. And you just gotta be patient. You gotta start somewhere. But that would be my recommendation, to like start at home, feel comfortable. Then you gotta go to the gym. Then you gotta start watching YouTube videos. Then maybe buy a program, a magazine, something. Because if you can do that, you're gonna see how eventually after a year, you're like, oh, I can do it. I don't even need to pay a membership at this, at that. I know what to do, how to do it. I got this. And once you feel comfortable, you can go to any gym, and you're like, I'm not the king of the king yet, but I'm definitely don't need anybody to baby me anymore. I got this. I got this. It's just baby steps. That's it.
Yeah, I was just reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's book Be Useful, and he talks about early on the idea of having a vision and like having a clear vision. And he would go into the gym and he would ask people um, why they were there, and that people at first would just come up with kind of like vague kind of like statements, and then he would really push them. And he said when he would really push people, that's when he could see that they would like keep going and that they would like get the result. And I think that's so important. And he talks about how he's always had a clear vision, and how it starts with like kind of like a dream. Like his was going to America, and he didn't know the details of how he would get to America or what he would do, but he had that like big dream, and that was like something that anchored him into like what he wanted to do. And I really love that. So how important do you think it is for someone to have kind of like a clear vision when they start going to the gym of what result they want to get out of it?
Definitely helps a lot. For me, I know Arnold Schwarzenegger since I was a kid. I think he was one of the persons that we didn't have a lot of females when I was growing up. I just love that kind of physiques. I don't know what attracted me to me, but I used to love just to see the mass of the composition, and just I was so fascinated that you can do that with your body. And I think that's why I started buying the magazines when I told you, because it really helps you for any type. It doesn't have to be only fitness. It can be anything. If you have, that's why we have board visions, that's why you have the background of your computer, your phones, anything like that. It really helps you to see, okay, where do I want to be? If you look at it, right, most of the people who are successful, and there is actually articles about how people are successful, the best people for success when it comes to females is the people who are about to get married. Females who are about to get married, they have the vision, which is funny, right? Like without they even knowing there is a vision, their vision is to walk to the aisle looking amazing. They already can feel that that photographer is going to capture everything. So even though they don't have a board vision, that's their vision. That's how they want to look. And that's like there is actually articles about talking about how like the best clients to have are those people. Why? Because you will see for 3 months, 6 months, whatever is the end goal. They will be working out every day, eating amazing. Like they keep looking at themselves. They keep going to the feeding room. They keep doing all these things for the wedding. So they're consistently putting themselves as this is what we're going to look, and this is what we're going to look. The second category of people who want to do something better for themselves, and it takes a little bit longer, are grandparents. When you have your first grandchild, there is grandparents who are like, oh my God, it's like they just brought them alive somehow. And there is people who like stop smoking, stop doing certain food styles, they stop doing so many things because that child just brought them alive. And it's a way for them to say, I want to walk my grandchild to the school. I want to be able to play with my grandchild. There's so many things. So again, they may not have the vision that they see it every day, but they have that vision that they want to be there when they graduate from school. What happens is that, so vision is a lot of it. And that's one book that I love of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Be Useful, because it shows you in so many small steps how to be useful for yourself in your life, implementing exercise.
Yeah, for me, when I think about working out, I always think I want to be able to hold the door open for someone if they're far away. And also, one of my nieces and nephews, like, all want to be carried at the same time, and they all jump on my back and my arms, that I could like take a few steps. And that's always what I think to myself, when I do weights or if I do cardio. And like I always think like kind of like, can I open a door? Like, and then if I go somewhere and I like hold the door, I'm like, oh, I need to work out more. Um yeah, doors are heavier than you would
That's
ever
what you think.
imagine.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I love that. And I loved in his book, there's so many just like great golden nuggets. And like you said, that idea of like baby steps. And I think some people can really get lost in kind of like having the big vision and feeling like it's so far away. So, what would you say to someone who has a vision for where they want to be, but they just are kind of like how grandparents are kind of like anchored in like, oh, I'm going to see my grandkids and there's going to be a benefit to this, that it kind of like washes away some of the fear. And also for people who are getting married, they're like, oh, like I can do this, like they're motivated. It's like kind of like uh, all these heightened experiences. What would you say to someone who has a vision for how they want to look, but they don't have that heightened experience that gives them that extra boost to do it? And they have, whether it's anxiety or impatience or fear or limiting beliefs, that it's harder to get over without that excitement of looking forward to something and having a really great like functionality to getting in shape or working out or being strong. What would you say to those people who feel like it takes a lot of time and that they don't have enough belief in themselves to take the baby steps consistently.
Listen, I like life throws you so many things. I can tell you. And I'm a living, person of that. There's so many obstacles that you have some kind of like attitude that this sounds great. I love what she said. This is amazing. I'm gonna start tomorrow. And you can have an amazing week. Everything that I told you, all the tools are amazing. She was right, she's 100%. And something throws you off, something just completely. And people who has unfortunately anxiety or some kind of those big gains for them, it can go so high up that they just drop them down to the ground. They not be able to get up the next day. And I'm not meaning on the part of like I can move my muscles. No, it's to the meaning like this is so depressive. I just had such a high dopamine that I'm like, and then this life change just happened, or this obstacle that for us, for some of us, it's not a big deal, but for them, it's such a big deal that they just like screw this. Like I'm not doing this again, right? And we have to remember that we are persons of like changes. We can have such a high, and we can have such a low. And for some people, it affects even more. And with that being said, we have to be kind to ourselves, because if we're not kind to ourselves, right, we're never going to get out of that funk. And that's when you say, you know what? F this, throw the towel. I'm not doing this. Forget about everything else. If like people don't love me how I look, that's when they start talking about that. If my kids, I get to see them or I don't get to see them, who cares? And then you start throwing things negative, like, they won't even remember me if I die, whatever, because unfortunately that's why our minds are created to start thinking more negative than positive.
Mm.
So what I can tell you is that there are going to be those days. There are going to be days that good things are going to happen. You feel strong, everything is, and you can do something minimum and you get broken bone. Unfortunately, you need to stay with your dad for a while. You cannot do that. It's going to happen. But you also have to be kind to yourself and remember, I'm like, okay, we need to reset this. If I have to go help my dad for a whole month and I have to live with him, I cannot go to the gym. So what else can I do? You gotta start looking for options. You start looking for like, what if I cannot go to the gym? Can I do something else? If I broke something, it's fine. Was it in my arms? Fine. Then I start again in the mornings and then continue go for walks. There's certain things that you may not do, but you can do other things. And as long as you keep yourself motivated, and once you switch that little thing of like, I cannot do A, but I can do B. I cannot do C, but I can do D. If you can do that, you're gonna see how much like applaud yourself that you did something else different. And that obstacle becomes like, well, it becomes literally like, well, I cannot do that, but we're gonna do this other thing. And that's the end of it. We can start seeing options of challenges and changes and positive movements, and actually a weight or a light to do something else, instead of having that mentality of like, that's it. I mean, I really try, and I'm never gonna go and do that. I'm never gonna look like that. Um, does take time. Everything takes time. None of us, I'm pretty sure a lot of us, we are in a position where we feel comfortable in something, but none of us got here like just babies, and here we are now. It is what it is. We all work really hard to have what we have and to create the lifestyle that we have. So it is gonna take time, but the rewards are gonna be amazing. And time moves so fast that, yeah, it may sound like 3 years, 5 years sounds like a lot of time, but you can look back to your life and you're like this. It just happened so quickly that you're like, wow, took 5 years, but I feel like that was yesterday. So
When someone's in the moment, what do you think it takes for them to choose a better choice? Like, say it's to eat something healthy, to stay home or go to the gym, to lay on the couch, or to go do an at-home workout. What do you think it takes in that moment to make that better choice?
it's hard to do it. It's hard to do it. It's been taking me a long time, to realize those choices. So I know it takes time for you to change that. you can have the first bite of a cookie, and as you have half of that cookie, you can say, oh, I promised myself I wasn't going to eat the cookie. Even you ate half of the cookie, you can put that to the side and say, okay, well, it's okay. I ate half of it. But see, again, you're forgiving yourself. You're
Mm.
stopping something, and you at least realize what you did. And then you're like, by the next time when somebody offers you that cookie, you probably gonna be like, you know what? No, thank you. I'm like, I'm just right now, I'm full. I feel satisfied. I don't need that. But it is going to take some tricks of your sleeve to do that. Um, we also show butterflies. And I personally, I have friends who love to get together, and drinking is the number one thing. Drinking food for the majority of us is what brings us together, to brings our friends and the energy to, meet. And I have to sometimes make sure that when they ask me, why aren't you not drinking? I have a raise. My stomach hurts. I sometimes have to do tricks to myself for them to understand. I don't feel like drinking tonight, but sometimes people are so stubborn because you're doing something to change your life that doesn't fit them. You are almost making them feel bad about themselves, which you're not, but they feel guilty because you're not drinking, and then they chose to do something that they shouldn't choose because they know that that was not part of the thing that they wanted to do. So it's a bad thing, but and it's, like I say, it's hard, but you got to start doing little things for yourself to eventually catch on, and then not do that beforehand. I don't know if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. And this idea of peer pressure is so big. I remember growing up, my uncle was very strict with his diet, and he never ate cake or anything. And he said that people would always try to pressure him every time he went somewhere to eat cake. And he would say he would say he's allergic to sugar, or if he really had to have the cake, he did this thing where he would cut it twice and then move it around, and it always looked like you ate the cake. and and it's just so funny because it's like the truth is sometimes you have to come up with these coping mechanisms, because sometimes people won't take no for an answer. Like sometimes people will pressure you to actually like eat something you don't want to eat, or drink something you don't want to drink, or they'll and I think this gets into the realm of like what relationships in your life are toxic, and like what is just like people culturally feel like you have to meet a certain standard. So it does beg the question of like, what relationships do you want in your life? But also, I think just on the surface level, like it's hard to set boundaries, especially around eating and around even when you're with friends, to say, oh yeah, I have a race tomorrow. Like that's a hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of courage. And I think the better the friends are, the easier it is to say. um
Yes.
but I think even just I think it's very common for people to not feel like pushing food on someone is that negative. And I think it is something that someone can push it and peer pressure you without it being a completely toxic relationship. So I love this that you bring up this idea of peer pressure, because it's so true. And I think it was Alex Hormozzi's book, and he talked about how people kept asking, like, how do I stay on my diet when I go out to eat? Like, do I just not go out to eat? Like, it's not sustainable to just not go out to eat. And he like immediately came up with like a lead magnet for people, like just quickly, how to go out to eat and like make sure that you like stay on your diet. And I love that idea that it's like so much of like our excuses are common excuses, and that we can look to coaches like you, um other people like who've written books. Like I love that Arnold Schwarzenegger book. But Alex Hormozy does talk about his experience with some of the offers he brought out. But just kind of like educating yourself is so important. And I think about like the fear of like being in a gym when you don't really know what you're doing. And I just think about all the people that you're helping when you make a video about doing a push-up or doing a pull-up. And I think it's so powerful to recognize that that could be really life-changing for someone, and that we often overlook how life-changing it can be.
Yeah, it's funny that one of the things that for me that is interesting, because again, I've been doing this for so long, and so I already know, like we were talking about, little trigger things for other people that they're not yours, but they feel trigger. Is one analogy that I learned a long time ago, and it's been stuck to my head. And if you sit back, you're like, interested, right? Because I so a bucket of crabs. I didn't know that the crabs usually try to get out of the bucket, but it's interested because if one is about to leave the bucket, the other crabs will bring that crab down to stay right there. So eventually, a lot of them start kind of fighting to get out, and the same group of the crabs will put everybody down to the point that the crabs eventually stop doing that, right? You give up. That's the point for us to give up, because you're like,
Mhm.
when people says, well, there's people who always would tell you, well, you only live once, so what's one drink is gonna kill you? See, if I have a race the next day, of course it's gonna kill me, because one, you're not getting up early. I am. So my pattern of sleep is gonna be completely different. I am not gonna perform like I wanna perform, right? Again, I don't care about timing, but if you're doing something for yourself, of course, those little things bothering you. And those hacks when it comes to like the food, because you're not into the cake of the sugar, right? The peer pressure comes, and unfortunately, you end up giving up because you just don't want to hear it anymore, right? So you start finding hacks like, like your uncle did. And I actually start saying like chocolate bothers my stomach or certain things, but you also have to be proactive. And the way to be proactive is to, if you know where you're going to go, that's one of the things that I also learned, that you should look at the menu ahead of time. So that to the point that you don't even have to have a menu. So when people say, oh, you know what you're going to eat? Yes, I know. And then that's the end of it, right? So instead of having a burger, have some tacos. The consumption of burger and French fries, to have some tacos and you still have the carbohydrates and a tortilla, is less than that heavy oil, cheesy, grease thing in your stomach, right? So there's certain things that you can always do ahead of time. So I actually I make believe that I drink gin and tonic. So I always tell the waiter, I'm always the last one, I'm like, can you bring me a seltzer water with a piece of lemon? Why? Because it looks like a gin and tonic, but like, it just gets to a point where like people had to stop, like, you just got to stop, and you just had to do your own like best to kind of like move forward when it comes to those things. So when it comes to the gym, I know it's not easy, but sometimes you just have to, you gotta push yourself, you gotta push a little bit harder. It is easy for me to say it, but it's hard for other people, and you just have to start believing on yourself. If you can believe on yourself, it's just that you do not have to be in that sexy clothes that some of the teenagers bring. That's another thing that unfortunately females who are a little bit older, they feel uncomfortable and all that, and I get it. Um, and that's unfortunately something that the young kids, like you say, social media are so, like, they tell you that this is what you're supposed to look. Everybody has a look. You have the ones who are the runner look, and they can eat everything and they never run in their life, but that's how the body composition is. They just have that runner look. And then there is people who barely eat, and unfortunately they're just a little bit big on the side. It's just the way their body is. But they're still working hard to mold that body to wherever just for them feel comfortable. I'm all about empowering the female and the guys with just to feel confident and strong. And I don't need to show you like if I have a six pack or no, I don't need to show you skin, because unfortunately, like, there's a perspective through social media that you have to show almost half naked to the gym to feel like you can do these things. There's kids who are much younger than me, and they cannot do a good push-up. And I'm like, all right, you eventually gonna have issues on your shoulders, then your elbows. And I'm like, but you look amazing. Okay, I give you that. But again, that's not how we're supposed to look. So a t-shirt and a nice comfortable sweatpants, and you just keep thriving. And that's what the point is. No, again, we gotta let go of social media. Social media, unfortunately, all these guys who are influencers, half of them, they don't even do the exercise correct when they're showing it to you. So is you can't go by them. You gotta go by people who are actually being on the platform of the bodybuilding or some kind of like fitness that you have seen before for a while. There's so many of them. They're actually, if you followed some of the videos and what they do, that would be the person that you want to follow and to learn than some of these young kids that unfortunately they don't even know what they're doing.
That's amazing. If there's one message you want to leave everyone with today, what would that be?
Just let's move 1 foot forward. Doesn't matter how big that like a step is. Just start moving. I think that also Arnold says that. It's just keep moving. That's what it is. And I would definitely recommend everybody just to listen, be useful, because it's not about just bodybuilding. And I know he's a bodybuilder, but it's not about that. He shows you more to life and all the negative people and how he succeed to where he is now, that we can all actually learn something just by pushing a little bit harder every day.
Thanks for coming on today.
No, thank you. It was an honor. I feel honored in this. So thank you so much.